when you're living in a TV, when you're running a TV station, right, and you're running program, instruction sets, programmable matter, programmable radios. You know what a programmable radio is, right? Ask any pilot that's running an aircraft radio, airlines of communication, pressure lines of communication, low pressure, high pressure systems, ultra high frequency, low frequency, density, altitude, consciousness, and how that relates to running a star radio network with ether as an Ethernet, cable news program, northeast, west, and south, right? Arrows on a compass or magnetosphere, gyrodome. And what was I thinking about? Now I lost my track. It's oh gosh. Come on back. Let's see if we can recall that. And had to do with the one that I was just finishing. Oh yes, it just came back. What we call a formation of consciousness, or group mind think. I read a book back in the 1960s. Actually, I read a number of books, and these naturally are not coincidences, some of which actually came from my father. So I figure somewhere along the way, my father knew some things. So we're running on the libraries, right? Hey, what library are you actually running on? Because there's some things we don't talk about, but then when certain information gets released between my father and me, or me and my father, we begin to, I call it hooking up, expanding our libraries together, right? And that's when my father I used to send him a lot of stuff to say, hey, take a look at this. Hey, take a look at this, right? And so my father's level of mathematical intelligence could certainly put the building blocks of letters and codes and fire letters together to go, wow, right? So in other words, my father didn't have a closed loop circuit, which means my father wasn't running a library that was running on limited bandwidth. You know what I mean by limited bands? No, it means that my father had the capacity to experience higher bandwidth. Higher bands, more bands. Multidimensional, multi-density. Expanding the consciousness, which is expanding the library of what we're all experiencing simultaneously through space arc vectors, right? So here's a little scene that I was running in my mind in my TV projector, right? Of going back in time. And I'm actually reminded of the movie, even though I experienced it in physical space. So if you go back to the 1950s, and this is where letters and word arrangements are important when it comes to fire letters and tetrahedrons, are what we used to call a hangout. Hanging out. We're just hanging out, right? Okay, so where did most children growing up in America, because I was growing up in America in the 1950s, where most teenagers that were either in junior high school or high school had a traditional, programmed, Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver, My Three Sons, right? Father Knows Best, movie set. And that was called what? A soda fountain. The malt shop, right? And so what you realize that you got all these teenagers, boys and girls, and youngsters that are all congregating. Oh, congregating. Yeah, like a religious congregation, like in a church, which is simply another loosh bin, sucking energy out of those buildings, right? To run machine ships. They're ships, right? And what I call feeder lines, loosh bins, or bin numbers. Numbers and letters are energy. And so here you have all these drugstores called drug stores, right? And so there was a soda fountain in there with a little bar and a grill, right? And back in the day, I can remember some sodas that were actually pretty good that were called phosphate sodas, cherry phosphates. Ever had a cherry phosphate? That's some of the older sodas that we used to have. And Rexall drugs. Rexalls used to have the little booths that you could sit up with boys and girls could hang out together and order French fries and a hamburger, right? Got to go kill the cow in order to eat the hamburger. And then the French fries, right? French fry the potato, and then malt, chocolate malts, vanilla malts, right? And so what you begin to realize is this is groupthink, entropic parasitic programming, or what I call acid batteries. So what you have is groupthink acid batteries. Now, if you want to pull the tighter focus of this in on a 3D XYZ axis, right? XYZ axis like the actual spin rotation between two magnets on a planet, right? So you have groupthink, which is group mind, which is a formation of consciousness that are all experiencing themselves together on a tighter what? Now we're getting into the camera, right? The focus. Pull it tighter, like pulling the holographic pixelated mathematical codes together, right? Into a group, right? And that's a scatter plot. You know what a scatter plot is, right? Now you can extend that mathematically into a log scale. And the exponents, the exponential function, which is a math function, right? Of log scale distribution tables of what? Water columns, water pressure, the echo chamber, the echospheres, right? And biovoltage, right? So what happens? The doctors are all waiting